마음 그리고 마음 챙김에 대해서 동양과 서양이 대화하는 자리를 갖겠습니다. 공통점은 우리를 친하게 만들고 차이는 우리를 깊이 있게 한다고 봅니다. 네, 선생님. 동양과 서양은 패러다임이 상당히 다른 것 같습니다. 물론 공통점도 많습니다만은 이렇게 동양과 서양이 상당히 다른데 선생님께서는 마음과 마음 챙김에 대해서 동양과 서양의 이런 패러다임이라든지 관점 차이들이 어떻게 소통하고 계신지요?
I think that many of these differences are exaggerated. I think that I tend to see more similarities than differences. I think that that's perceptive of you. I believe that my life's work is to help people realize that these categories are of our own making, and that what we need to do is not be controlled by our categories, but realize that our categories are of our own making. So when people try, for instance, to bring people together, they often say that we're all one. And I think that we see we're not all one. But if instead we recognize all the ways we're different, not just East and West, tall, short, male, female, athletic, not athletic, liking pink shirts, liking gold sweaters, that the more of these we recognize, oddly makes us realize that we're much more similar to each other in being so different. Does that make some sense?
네, 동양에서는 그런데 무지개로 예를 들면 우리가 흔히 무지개를 7가지 색이라고 합니다. 그러나 자세히 보면 빨강과 주황 사이에도 무한대의 색이 존재합니다. 그런데 그 빨강과 주황 사이에 무한대의 색이 존재한다고 해서 극도로 진한 주황, 극도로 흐린 주황 뭐 이런 식으로 나눈다고 하더라도 그것은 실제 색에 다다르지 못합니다. 그렇기 때문에 동양에서는 그 범주를 만드는 것, 범주에 따라서 어떤 사물을 무엇이라고 명명하는 것 자체도 편견이나 망상이라고 해서 배격을 하고 그 언어 자체는 궁극적 진리에 이를 수 없다고 선언을 합니다.
Yes, I think that's very, very important. What people fail to realize is that we've created the categories, and then we let the categories control us. Where what we should be doing is constantly creating categories. So years ago, for reasons that are no longer relevant, people were supposed to retire when they were 65 years old, in the West at least. So that meant at 65 you were old. And because of that category, people started to expect changes, looking for negative changes as they got closer and closer to 65. Forgetting that 65 was just made up. Everything is just made up. You know, the notion of good and bad is the one that I pay most attention to, where if you look at what's good, it's good in some ways, it's bad in other ways. If you don't remember that we've created these categories, we become victims of them.
마음 챙김 이제 수행이라는 것이 목표로 하는 것은 단순히 어떤 기존의 마인드셋이라든지 이런 걸 깨자는 것이 아니라 더 나아가서 내 자아가 거듭나자는 것. 그리고 더 나아가서는 어떤 열반에 이르고 그것은 뭐 서양식으로 말하면은 뭐 자비, 어떤 사회적 약자에 대한 고통을 어떻게 연민을 하고 그것을 갖다가 덜어주려는 그런 자비심에 이르러야 된다고 봅니다. 근데 지금 이제 교수님의 마음 챙김 이론은 어떤 윤리적인 목표라든지 자아의 거듭남하고는 조금 거리가 있는 것 같은데 마음 챙김 이론도 앞으로 그런 자아의 거듭남이나 어떤 윤리적 목표를 지향하실 의향이 있으신지요?
It's interesting that when I talk about good and bad as being of our minds rather than in the things we're evaluating, it can look like moral relativism, as if there are no anchors. But it turns out that, at least in my view, that if people are mindful, over time what happens is you end up with spontaneous right action. That if you look at what's wrong across the world, when you have young people committing suicide, people raping, stealing, doing all of these terrible things, that those stem from mindlessness. And so without talking about things as good or bad, but if we just encourage people to actively notice, it turns out they would value themselves, they would value other people, and that there'd be no reason for the things that we now see as deplorable to exist. So in some strange way, you don't have to have any strong set of morals. But by letting everybody be more mindful, you get rid of notions of good and bad, so you don't have good and bad people. You don't have people thinking everybody has to have whatever it is in order to survive. You know that if you look across the globe, there's enough water, there's enough food for everybody. When you realize that feeling good is not zero-sum, everybody can feel good. So that if we promote more mindfulness, people will behave in ways that right now are taken to be moral, because the reasons for them behaving immorally have disappeared. Do you see what I'm saying? That if you believe that only one of us can win, then that might lead me to hit you over the head to get you out of the way so I can be the winner. When you recognize that with respect to anything that matters, both of us can win, there's no reason for me to be unkind to you. When you talk about being merciful, that has hidden in it a lot of evaluation, right? You see somebody and you say, oh, they don't have all of these things that are important to have, but who decided they're important to have them? And again, by being less evaluative, you necessarily become more, quote, merciful. There's no reason not to be.
그러나 인간이 짐승과 가장 다른 이유는 뭐 여러 가지가 있지만 의미적 존재라고 봅니다. 그래서 저는 그 마음챙김 수행의 연구들도 그 의미라는 것이 좀 더 보완됐으면 좋겠다는 생각을 했습니다. 저는 의미라는 것으로 인류사를 갖다가 해석을 하면 인류의 어떤 역사도 다르게 구분할 수 있다고 봅니다. 그러니까 600만 년 전에는 이 나무 위에서 어떤 균형을 잡는 것을 갖다가 상당히 중요하게 여기고 신체 균형이라는 어떤 개념들을 어떤 은유로 메타포, 동일성의 유사성인 메타포로 만들었습니다. 그러고 이제 사바나 기후에 와서 이제 수렵 채취 생활들을 하면서는 이제 양식의 균형, 너무 많은 그 과일이라든지 이런 것을 따오다가는 이제 표범이나 호랑이나 이런 거에 잡혀 먹을 수가 있기 때문에 어떤 양식의 균형, 또 그렇다고 너무 덜 따오면 그 굶겠죠. 그러니까 양식의 균형이란 개념으로 바뀌고, 그것이 이제 40만 년 전에 이제 폭스피트 유전자의 변이가 일어나면서 그 언어적인 소통을 하게 되고 예술을 만들면서는 어떤 예술품의 어떤 대칭이라는 그런 개념으로 바뀌게 됐습니다. 그리고 메소포타미아 문명기에 와서는 이제 경제나 살림을 하면서 재정의 균형이란 개념으로 바뀌었고, 그것이 이제 석가와 공자가 태어나던 시기에서는 중도와 중용이란 개념으로 의미가 확장이 되면서 인간의 어떤 인지혁명이 일어나고 형이상학의 발달이 있었다고 봅니다. 그런 것식으로 이 랭어 교수가 하신 이 마음과 마음 챙김의 어떤 연구 성과들을 좀 의미를 깊게 하는 해석들이 더불어 있었으면 좋겠다는 생각을 했습니다.
Yeah, I think that the study of history itself, in the way you've laid it out, you open any history book and you have the mistaken notion that that was the way it was, rather than that somebody's view of the way it was. In the United States, for instance, history seems to be the different wars that took place. That's what history is. Well, that's bizarre. So if you were going to look at the food that was eaten 200 years ago, 50 years ago, that's the history of food, or the history of design, or the history of music. But history is battles. But that's not natural, that's somebody's view. You had said before about animals, the difference between people and animals. But it really depends on who's doing the viewing. So I'm a great dog lover. And I'm not so sure my dogs are inferior. You know, what happens is somebody mistreats the animal, they go to work, they come back, and the animal is loving. And they say, stupid animal. You know, you should be angry at me. But I don't think Buddha would say that. I wouldn't say that. I think that that dog, just as if I was mistreated, would say, gee, that's too bad that you were so weak, that you had no other way to respond. The point that I'm making is that all of the categories that you speak of, that we accept as real, were just decisions that people made. And it's very interesting. I do a lot of research on decision making. What happens is, when there's a decision to be made, that means there's uncertainty. If there's no uncertainty, there's no decision. The moment we make the decision, we forget that there was uncertainty. Now, if we remembered there was uncertainty, we'd know that even those periods of time, the epochs that you've described, or people, animals, male, female, east, west, old, young, that those are just decisions. Those are categories. They could have been understood quite differently. Imagine if we didn't have the difference between men and women. We'd have many more women empowered. If we didn't have the category old and young, we'd have people perhaps living more fruitful lives until the very end. If we didn't have East and West, but we just had people, you know, I find myself personally shocked when we're reading the newspaper about one group, you know, you have warring sides, and they say X number of this side was killed versus X number of this side, rather than, gee, those were people. Do you see what I'm saying? That the boundaries we create are artificial. People create the categories, North and South Korea. There's no natural division in North and South Korea. Once we create that, then we treat it as if it was handed down from the heavens. And those categories limit us. I don't know if I answered your question, but I enjoyed trying.
우리가 의미를 만들 때는 저는 두 가지 축이 있다고 봅니다. 하나는 메타포, 은이라고 해서 이제 유사성의 유추입니다. 그래서 보름달을 보고 보름달과 같이 동그란 엄마 얼굴을 연상해내고 그것으로 의미를 바꾸는 메타포가 있고, 그리고 보름달에서 시간적으로 인접한 추석이라든지 추수감사절이라든지 공간적으로 인접한 뭐 산이라든지 구름이라든지 이런 걸 연상하고 그거를 의미를 만드는 이제 환유가 있습니다. 그리고 또 은유나 환유 또한 어떤 사물의 현상, 그러니까 보름달처럼 둥그런 어떤 모습에서 아까 말씀드린 대로 엄마 얼굴을 떠올릴 수도 있지만, 보름달이 하늘과 땅을 왔다 갔다 한다는 거 보고 보름달이 하늘과 땅의 중개자들하고 이제 생각을 합니다. 그리고 더 나아가서는 그런 생각을 할 뿐만 아니라 그것으로 이제 의미 규정을 하고 또 의미를 갖다가 실천하기도 합니다. 또 어떤 사람은 보름달이 하늘에서 사라졌는데 다시 초승달이 나타났다. 그러니까 보름달의 의미가 재생이다, 부활이라고 이렇게 해석합니다. 그런 식으로 사물의 현상, 본질, 또 기능하고 작용하는 것에 따라서 이렇게 의미들을 만듭니다. 그리고 그 의미들을 집단적으로 실천하면 저는 문화가 된다고 봅니다. 그러니까 새가 하늘과 땅을 왔다 갔다 하는 것을 보고 새를 하늘과 땅, 신과 인간의 사자라고 생각하는 것을 넘어서서 그 새를 갖다가 이제 신으로 모시는 의례를 행할 수도 있고, 또 2차 세계대전 때 그 남태평양의 많은 원주민들이 그 비행기를 처음 보고 비행기가 하늘에서 자기네로 보낸 사자라고 생각해서 비행기 교란 종교를 만들기도 했습니다. 이런 것처럼 어떤 유사성이나 아니면 인접성의 유추, 그걸로 빚어진 메타포와 메토니미, 그리고 메타포와 메토니미가 어떤 사물의 현상과 본질과 기능에 따라서 의미가 만들어진다고 할 때 그 의미들을 어떻게 하면 긍정적으로 해석할 수 있게 환자를 이끌 수 있느냐, 그렇게 이끌었을 때 결과들이 어떻게 다르게 나타나느냐, 이렇게 결합을 한다면 마음챙김 이론이 저는 훨씬 더 심오해지고 풍부해질 수 있다고 생각합니다.
All of the metaphors that you mention, the problem that I see is people not knowing that they're metaphors and that we can create multiple meanings. And so the difference is making meaning is the essence of mindfulness, but what we want to be aware of is that we're the meaning makers. So if you make a meaning and it no longer seems meaningful, then you need to continue and make the meaning again. It has no meaning independent of us and has an infinite number of meanings possible, which is very exciting. So the problem is that when people create categories, when they're taught in schools and they're given absolute facts, which are categories of a sort, they think, okay, now I know it, and that's all there is, rather than that's one way of viewing it. So you can use the example that you've given, or we can look at a cow, and we can say to a rancher, a cow has one meaning. To a physicist, and the movement of the cow is another meaning. To a Hindu, that cow has a very different meaning from a carnivore who's hungry looking at that cow. What people need to appreciate is each of these meanings are equally meaningful. And so to respect alternative meanings, not to be seeking the ultimate meaning. All right? That in seeking the ultimate meaning, I think what happens is that then we become unkind to people who disagree with us, who just make different meaning out of it. That, to go back to O. Henry, that if you now think, now I have it, the leaf might as well be gone, because life is only a matter of meaning making. It's also the case for people to recognize that life only consists of moments. And so if you make the moment meaningful, you're making your life meaningful. And a moment that you experience is not more meaningful than a moment somebody else experiences. So take us back to where we were before. You don't need to feel so merciful to that person who seems not to have. If you go back to your monks, those monks are often without physical possessions, and many believe they have more meaning in their lives than many people who've accumulated great mass of wealth. So we all have the ability to make meaning, to make moments meaningful, and what we have to recognize is that it's an endless process. It's not, now I've made the meaning, now I know, and that's the end. In some sense, that's only the beginning.
1974년 엘렌 랭어 교수가 진행한 꼬리표 붙이기 실험. 같은 사람이 미리 붙여진 꼬리표에 따라 구직자로 인식되기도 환자로 인식되기도 하는 상황을 보여주는데, 꼬리표를 떼고 마음 챙김의 시선으로 세상을 바라보게 되면 사람들이 가진 특성은 상대적이라는 것을 깨달을 수 있다.
선생님, 저는 그 선생님의 꼬리표 붙이기 실험을 상당히 감동 있게 읽었습니다. 꼬리표 붙이기 실험을 통해서 어떤 정상인과 비정상인에 대한 어떤 차이라든지 편견을 없앨 수 있고, 또 모든 인간을 이제 평등하게 본다는 것이 저는 상당히 그 감동적이었고, 저에게도 많은 의미들을 갖다가 부여를 했습니다. 근데 거기에 이제 저는 이제 동서양의 어떤 차이들을 발견할 수 있지 않을까 생각합니다. 그래서 꼬리표 붙이기 실험 같은 것이 이런 어떤 동일성에 대한 대안으로서의 차이의 사유라든가 타자성, 얼터리티의 사유와 결합한다면 좀 더 그 꼬리표 붙이기 실험이 높은 단계로 올라갈 수 있다고 생각하는데 어떻게 생각하시는지요?
We need to recognize that we have to ask mutually exclusive multiple hypotheses to recognize that it, whatever the it is not understandable in a single way. When we look for single causes, single understandings of people, use single lenses, single labels, we think we know people a lot better than we do. And then we end up with the good guys or the bad guys. And that people respond to labels in a way that's consistent, that makes sense. And what we need to do is not just go along with what's happening as a stream of things, but see each behavior that we're engaging in as separate and to recognize that we have choices. So as you said, as soon as there's one person who doesn't do it, and this was first done with Solomon Asch, a very simple study where people are shown 3 lines of different lengths. So a small line, a medium line, a big line. And then given a comparison line and asked which line is most similar of those 3 to this one. Now it's clearly, let's say, the middle one, okay? But what happens is before the subject gets a chance to answer, 3 people say, no, it's the long line. So you're told, long line, and now it's your turn. It's scary, right? What are you going to do? So people tend to say the long line. Now, if you have just one person who's willing to say, no, it's not I don't see the long line, I see it as the short line, then everybody is free to respond in a way that's more truthful to themselves. Interestingly, whenever we're in a group setting, we can either follow all of those people who came before us, or we can, in our minds, create a person who might disagree, which then gives us the freedom to disagree and to do what we feel is the right thing. Doing the right thing means doing what makes sense to us, not just because other people have done it, but because it truly makes sense. If it makes sense to us, chances are it will make sense to other people. And you don't want to live your life saying it's something that you don't believe, right? That giving the right response, right meaning, something meaningful to you, even if it's not appreciated at that moment, over time will feel good to you. Giving the wrong answer, because the group has given it, never feels fully satisfying. With respect now to large intergroup differences, it's the same sort of thing. You know, I've done research on prejudice where what I suggest is that the way to decrease discrimination is to decrease prejudice by increasing discrimination. We notice more and more things about us. So we can say, are we similar? Well, we both have 2 eyes, a nose, and a mouth. Yes, we're similar. We're both humans. Yes. We both have hair that's not blonde. Your hair is darker than mine, so we're different. The shape of your eyes are different from mine, so we're different. The shapes of our nose are different. The clothes that we're wearing are different. But if we go around the room here, and we see that all of us are different, somehow the meaning of those differences become less important. More people in the West may look at the individual than people in the East, but many of us in the West care more about relationships than anything else. And many people in Korea or any place in the East can notice the individual components. When you do a study, you make it seem more different than it actually is. I think that the world is getting smaller. We can applaud our differences, and we're more likely to do that when we recognize our strong similarities. People matter. Fear is something that people experience, whether in the East or the West. Anxiety, stress, these are things that are not a part of Korean culture that don't also exist in other parts of the world, in the United States. And what all of us need to realize is that each of these emotions are a function of our mindlessness. Events don't cause stress. What causes stress are our views of events. And if somebody mistreats you and you feel small, rather than suffer, what you should do is feel sorry in some sense for that person. Because nobody who has it together, whether from the East or the West, no Buddha, no person who's all grown up, treats people in that way. So that if you're talking to somebody and you worry that you're not being respected, rather than feel bad, feel sorry for that person because that person wouldn't do that if they were more Buddha-like. Do you understand what I'm saying? That these negative emotions that we experience, we don't have to experience. And nobody makes us feel any particular way. Those are choices we're making. And they all stem from the way we understand the situation. And any situation can be understood through multiple lenses. So when you're considering a hypothesis, are you good, are you bad? Are you winning, are you losing? Are you better or worse than somebody else? You want to open that up and look through many lenses and see how are we similar? How are we able to all live productive, happy lives? And you'll get as many answers to that as to the negative. And then we end up with a world that feels smaller and more familiar. It's the same thing at work. Work is not necessarily stressful. Again, difficulty, stress, these are ideas we have about the work that we're doing. But to learn the information in a mindful way, which means you're open-minded, it's conditional, it could be this way. So I said about history, that's one way of looking at it. Here's another way, here's another way. And recognizing all the different ways makes everything potentially meaningful and potentially fun. And then hopefully for the students around the globe, they'd be less inclined to consider suicide, which is terrible, to think that there's only one way of being. If you do it in a way that's meaningful to you, no matter what you're doing, you can make it an art. We have all of these categories. We have categories like art and science. It's a lie. Science has a lot of art to it. And art can have a lot of science to it. We have fiction and nonfiction when we look at books. But there's no book that's nonfiction that if it doesn't relate in a true way to somebody's life, no one is going to read it. These are arbitrary distinctions. We want to be guided by them, but we don't want to be put in a cubbyhole. We don't want to be ruled by these categories. These categories are just categories that other people made. They had other ideas in mind. We want to pay some attention to them and then create our own categories. And in so doing, we create vibrant lives for ourselves.
선생님 죄송하지만 제 눈동자를 보실 수 있으시겠어요? 눈이 작지만 제 눈동자를 바로 보면 제 안에서 선생님 모습을 발견할 것입니다. 이것을 한국어로 눈부처라고 합니다. 이 눈부처를 바라보는 순간은 너와 나의 구분이 무너집니다. 이런 식의 어떤 생각의 동일성을 깨는 어떤 생각의 전환이 있어야 되고 그런 전환을 저는 이제 마음챙김 이론에 결합을 한다면 더 높은 단계로 상승할 수 있다고 생각합니다.
I agree with you completely, and I think that the way to accomplish this is by noticing more. And the more you notice, the less important any particular thing is that you notice. And that when you feel good about yourself, you naturally stand tall. I've been looking in your eye from the moment we started talking, because I'm not afraid of you looking into my eyes, because I don't believe that I am any better than you are, I am any worse than you are. I've had different experiences. You would prosper by learning more about me. I would prosper by learning more about you. When we get rid of the notion of absolutes, that some people are better, then you don't have many of those atrocities. You don't have people going to foreign lands and saying our way of doing things is better. What happens is eating with chopsticks is fun. Eating with a fork is fun. There are some foods you really do want to eat with a fork. It's easier. And there are some foods, for me, since I eat very fast, and I'm not so good with chopsticks, that if I eat with chopsticks, it's going to be better for me. Rather than thinking there's only one way, it's much more fun for all of us to try all the different ways. And then we naturally have respect for each other. When we think that there's one way of being, then you struggle to be as close to that one way as possible. And I want everyone to step back and say, who decided that that's the right way? And when you realize how different cultures are as to what's right and what's wrong, then there's a great freedom that comes from that. And that anything that's wrong in some circumstance is probably right in another. And you want to pay attention to the context. So we have to switch from a world of absolutes, where some people know more of these absolutes than others, to a world of it depends. It depends on the context. It depends on the circumstance. Everything depends. And that's the world where when you realize you don't know, but it depends, you pay attention. When you know, there's no reason to pay attention. When you think your way is the best way, then you insist on other people doing it. When you know your way is good for you under some circumstances, you don't insist that other people take it on. And that way, we all feed each other intellectually, spiritually, to a much greater extent than seems to happen now across the globe.
마음 챙김을 우리 삶에 어떻게 적용할 수 있을까? 지나치게 서구 과학의 관점에서 이루어진 연구 이론은 아닐까? 하지만 마음 챙김은 연령과 상관없이 동서양의 구분 없이 우리 모두에게 꼭 필요하고 적용 가능한 이론이다. 역사적, 문화적 배경의 차이는 있지만 동양에서도 마음 챙김은 삶의 핵심이 될 수 있다고 앨런 랭어 교수는 말한다. 유교적 사고방식과 주입식 교육관이 남아있는 한국 사회. 마음 챙김 이론이 우리에게 던지는 메시지는 무엇인가?
한국은 미국하고 환경이 굉장히 많이 다릅니다. 그렇기 때문에 마음 챙김 이론을 그대로 한국의 교육에다 적용할 때는 어떤 괴리가 있을 수밖에 없다고 봅니다. 그 괴리를 이제 어떻게 메우실 수 있는지 지혜가 있으시면 말씀해 주시거나 아니면 뭐 연구소를 이제 세우셨으니까 그 연구소에서 앞으로 어떤 것을 하실지 말씀해 주셨으면 감사하겠습니다.
Now, the piece that Korean students need to understand is by learning the material conditionally. Conditionally means it seems that from one perspective it may be, rather than this is the way it is. You can still answer all the factual questions correctly. But then you have the advantage of being able to use the information in novel ways. And it's in the using of it in novel ways that makes studying fun, that makes doing your jobs fun. I think that once Korean students and adults come to realize the fun that one can be had in making it meaningful, why wouldn't you do it? If you end up learning as much as you know now, but you enjoy it, that you become more creative with that information, I think everybody would welcome the opportunity. And don't be mistaken in believing that everybody in the West is mindful. So it's not that we have, the United States, they're innovative, creative, and mindful, and in Korea, they get the right answer because they've memorized it, but they're not creative and they're not mindful. Again, there are not as many differences as we think. We're trying to influence schools in the West as well to teach more mindfully, which means to teach that context matters, that individual viewpoints matter, that there are not single answers. And we'll end up, if we do this, with a world, right now, we have a world where people are using yesterday's solutions to solve today's problems. When we end up with a world, both East and West, that's more mindful, we'll come up with solutions that better fit our needs for today.
우리들이 지금 랭어 교수께서 해오신 것처럼 우리는 이제 동양인의 마음을 우리는 배우지 않아도 갖고 있습니다. 그런 어떤 자질들을 이제 서양 과학하고 결합을 해서 나도 바꾸고 세상도 바꾸는 일에 나섰으면 좋겠습니다. 감사합니다. Thank you.
교수님의 마음챙김 이론과 그리고 동양에서 얘기하는 알아차림과는 어떤 차이가 있는지 그것이 궁금합니다.
I think that what was most exciting for me in studying mindfulness was once I became aware of how similar it actually was to Buddhist teachings, that it felt that there must be something very right about coming from two very different perspectives to the same place. Being in the moment is achieved by simply noticing. As you notice, you see you don't know it, so then you naturally pay attention to it. Things like anger and other negative emotions come from a particular understanding as an event. You hold it still. You say, this is bad, this is demeaning, therefore you feel you have to fight back. But it is nothing. It's just an event that we can understand in multiple ways. And when you understand it as anger-provoking, you'll feel anger. If you understand it as, oh, I feel sorry for that person, you'll feel kindly towards them. If you understand it as, gee, this person is envious of you, you may even be flattered in the very same situation. So the idea is to recognize that ideas are not real in some way, that when you're in the moment, what that means is you have available to yourself all different ways of responding. You're not a victim. Most of us, because we're mindless, whether east or west, are victims of our own thoughts. So we think, this is a situation that's negative, I then have to respond negatively. When you recognize that you can see it in so many different ways, you're just at peace. And so when Buddha or Ellen Langer in the West, many, many years later, says, be in the moment by noticing, that gives you choices that you otherwise don't realize that you have. And I think that the fact that over so many centuries and from so many different parts of the world, we come to the same conclusion that life can be lived in a way that is calm, where you can stand tall, look in each other's eyes, feel good about yourself, all by being in this moment, I think makes it feel real and available to all of us.
교수님도 사람인지라 살다 보면 화가 나실 때가 있으시잖아요. 근데 화가 나는데도 필요 이상으로 화가 날 때, 그러니까 컨디션 기분에 따라 화가 많이 날 때 어떻게 마음을 다스리는지 그게 궁금합니다.
I probably have very few ups and downs. I was very fortunate to grow up with parents that were very nurturing and supportive. And so from my very earliest years, I would always see the positive side of situations. And so if it's positive, there's no reason for me to react in any negative way. If something happens to me, let me give you an example. Let's say something happens, and I'm not thinking of an example, but if something negative happens to me, the first thing I do is see that I'm able to respond to it in a much better way than I did when it happened to me in the past. So it was a good thing that it happened. It gave me an opportunity to learn. No matter what happens, there's always a way of turning it around. And I do this so naturally that I virtually never experience anger. I don't experience stress. I don't procrastinate, and that's interesting. Not because I'm better than anybody, but because I make the decision to do what I'm going to do, which means I'm necessarily not doing something else. So by my speaking to you today, I'm not painting my paintings, I'm not writing a journal article, I'm not doing lots of things. So I could see myself as procrastinating, or I could see myself as choosing to be here right now with you. Do you see what I'm saying? I don't experience regret because I'm aware of why I'm choosing what I'm choosing. If you say something unkind to me, rather than feel bad, I recognize that you're not being your Buddha self. And so then in some ways I feel bad for you and I don't take it in. People don't make us feel any particular way. Our feelings are largely choices. Now that's not to say that I'm not human. Surely there have been times in my life where I'd be stressed or something would happen. But my guess is that I've gotten over it faster than most people by not thinking there's only a single way of looking at it. If I had to go into the hospital, well, you don't applaud, yay, I have to go in the hospital. I say, good. In some ways that means I'll probably lose some weight. I'll have a chance to read novels rather than research papers. My good friends will come to see me, so I get a chance to interact. There are lots of advantages from stepping away from your normal life. There are advantages to everything. If you look at the advantages, then the disadvantages don't.